Call of Duty 4 came out in 2007. That's 9 years ago, and this is the game that redefined the entire franchise. Now I've been playing Call of Duty since Call of Duty 2. I bought every Call of Duty game on launch, and I put hundreds of hours into the Call of Duty games that I greatly enjoy, which basically boils down to Black Ops 1, 2, and Call of Duty 4. With the remastered edition of Call of Duty 4 coming out soon, I felt like going back, playing the game, and asking myself, does this game stand up to the test of time? Well, long story short, yes, this game is still very fun, but let's take our nostalgia goggles off just for one moment and talk about all the flaws of the game. Because like any game, it's not flawless, and this game most certainly is not flawless. I feel like Infinity Ward and Treyarch have two very different mentalities when it comes to designing a game. Infinity Ward wants to make a game that's quote-unquote fun. They don't really design maps to be able to be locked down, they don't design them for map control. They don't really fully design things for perfect balance where the more skilled player will win, they just want a quote-unquote fun game. I feel like Treyarch takes the entire opposite approach. They design maps that are easy to control, easy to figure out where people are going to be or where they're going to go. They try to go overboard when it comes to weapon balance and try to balance in the perks that Call of Duty, that Infinity Ward Call of Duty adds in. So let's talk specifically about things. Well, weapon balance. Weapon balance is not perfect in Call of Duty 4. In fact, you really have no reason to use anything other than the M16, the AK-47, the Desert Eagle, or the M40. That is if you like sniping. Anytime I bring up weapon balance, I always get a comment that's something along the lines of, but I use the MP5 and I do great with it, or I use the 74U and I do great with it. Like the video you're seeing here is probably one of the longer kill streaks I've gotten using the 74U. And that may be true, you may be able to do perfectly fine with a certain weapon, but that doesn't mean you wouldn't do better with an M16, or a weapon that is simply better than the one you are currently using. Just because you can do well with one thing doesn't mean something else isn't better. Now let's talk about the perks, and the perks are really where most of the balancing issues show up in this game. I actually want to go through each perk individually and briefly talk about them. In the first perk slot, this is mostly just giving you more equipment. 2 C4, 3 special grenades, 2 RPGs, 2 Claymore, 3 frag grenades, more ammo with Bandolier, and the only one that really stands out as being different is Bomb Squad, which kind of acts similarly to, say, Engineer in Black Ops. Bomb Squad and Bandolier are the only ones here that I don't absolutely hate. Having 2 C4 is really silly. I've always seen C4 as kind of a cheap bailout weapon. Say you get tagged twice and are quickly able to duck behind cover. Well, just lob C4 out from behind cover and blow it up, airburst it, and you got yourself a free kill. It has such a huge blast radius that it's simply obnoxious to deal with. Having 2 of these is something that should never happen. 3 special grenades is not a big deal, no one runs with it because the special grenades aren't exactly too useful in Call of Duty 4 compared to the later games. 2 RPGs in theory sounds fine for shooting down helicopters, but nothing stops people from spamming RPGs at anyone that walks by. 2 Claymores is something that I absolutely hate. This allows snipers to go up into a room that has 2 doors and put a Claymore down by each of them and just camp there the whole time. And maybe you get tagged by this sniper 4 or 5 different times throughout the game and just decide, I'm gonna go kill this guy. You run into one of his Claymores and go, okay, well he's still there. And then you run into the other one. Bomb Squad is the answer to this, but having to deal with that in general is just obnoxious. 3 frag grenades. This perk is the one that causes so many issues in Call of Duty 4. Grenades are very strong in Call of Duty 4, and having 3 of them turns the entire game into frag spam. Everyone runs with this perk, unless they're sniping, then they'll run with 2 times Claymores. I like Bandolier, personally myself. Bandolier gives you more ammo, and since I tend to go on longer kill streaks, I usually run out of ammo, so I actually run with this a decent amount of time, and I love Bomb Squad because that allows me to not run into Claymores. Moving on to the second perk slot, this is arguably the most useful one in the entire game, but also the most broken. It has the most potential to have a lot of diversity, but it simply doesn't. I mean, this is the perk slot that has Sleight of Hand, Double Tap, which is also known as Rapid Fire later on in later games, Overkill, UAV Jammer, which you may know as Ghost, and Sonic Boom, which you may know as Danger Close. However, all of these are completely overshadowed because this perk slot also has Stopping Power and Juggernaut. These two cause more imbalances with the entire game than anything else in Call of Duty 4. This changes the time to kill of weapons specifically, and this throws weapon balance completely out the window. You simply cannot mess with time to kill when it comes to a shooter. Stopping Power will increase your weapon damage 140%. It won't give it more wall penetration or anything, but it will make everything kill in 1 less bullet. This doesn't sound like a big deal until you really work that through in your head. Let me make a good analogy. Take the SA-58's damage model in Black Ops 2, the FAL, the semi-automatic one. It will kill in 2 shots. Now apply that damage model to the fully automatic Type 25, and that's essentially what stopping power does for every gun in the game. It'll kill in 1 less bullet. It's absolutely insane how much this messes with time to kill, but the answer to that is Juggernaut, which increases your health. Juggernaut is also the answer to a lot of other perks like, say, Sonic Boom or people spamming grenades. It just gives you more health to deal with more annoying things. But in general, it's supposed to be the counterpart to stopping power, but it's in the same perk, so thankfully you can't run with stopping power and Juggernaut at the same time. Again, these things overshadow everything else in this perk slot and completely ruin the weapon balance in the game. Now, I do occasionally see people using Sonic Boom, but what this does is that it increases the damage dealt by explosives to 125% and increases the explosive blast radius. This is very obnoxious to deal with, especially when someone is pairing that up with a grenade launcher, our classic Modern Warfare 2 problem, which is another note. Most of these bad perks carried on to later Call of Duty games where they had more of a problem, say Last Stand or Second Chance in Black Ops. And that leads nicely to our third perk slot. This third perk slot has Last Stand in it, which essentially means that after you die, you're not actually dead, and you get a second chance to try to shoot them. If you've already lost that encounter, you should never get another chance to shoot someone. Now, people like to throw out the argument this is not a very big deal, because if you can't finish off your kills, you just suck, but that's not always the case. A lot of times you drop someone in the second chance, and then your teammate takes your kill and gets the kill for it anyway, which stops you 1 kill short of getting your helicopter. Or that one time they fall behind cover, and you get shot in the back. You would have gotten the helicopter, but you got shot in the back because someone fell in Last Stand. It's a very annoying perk to deal with, and it's even worse. I absolutely hate this perk, because Second Chance made its way into Black Ops 1, where you could revive people out of Last Stand. That is very obnoxious, but at least with a patch later on in Black Ops they made it so that if you drop someone into Second Chance and someone else shoots them, you still get the kill for it, so at least that was good. But it shouldn't be in the game at all. It's a really dumb perk. The other perks in this slot are Extreme Conditioning, which is fine, you just sprint for a longer period of time. Steady Aim, which almost everyone uses, it is incredibly useful. You have tighter hipfire accuracy, it's personally the one I use myself. Martyrdom, our old friend that almost everyone used on launch of this game, it drops a grenade when you die. That's very annoying to deal with if you happen to be the person sprinting by an enemy that died, and you get within that range where you can see that there's a grenade indicator, but it blows up just at that moment, so you die. Deep Impact, not a lot of people use it, although it does have its functions. It makes it so you can shoot through walls. Iron Lungs, only useful for sniper. Dead Silence, I actually like this one. It makes it so that you're quiet while you're running. I end up using Ninja a lot in Black Ops 1, which is what this turned into. And then my favorite perk in Call of Duty history, Eavesdrop. This is such a useless perk. It doesn't really ruin the game or affect it negatively in any way whatsoever. In fact, it has no impact on the game at all. What this does is it allows you to hear the enemy teams talking on their microphone. But most people don't use mics on Xbox Live or whatever one you're playing, whatever platform you're playing on. So there's no point to it, and most people aren't talking strategically over these mics anyway. They're just rambling about how some noob killed them with a claymore or something. Now, like I said at the beginning of this video, Call of Duty 4 is a very good game, but it's not a flawless game. So I need to constantly remind people to take out the nostalgia goggles and say, hey, this game is not perfect. And in my opinion, I like Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 far more, as both of those games did a much better job balancing in all of the issues that Call of Duty 4 threw into the Call of Duty franchise. So does Call of Duty 4 hold up? It does, but it's not flawless.